All around the world there are lots of single women, especially in places like Eastern Europe. It's pretty interesting because each country has its own story about why there are so many awesome ladies who are rocking it solo. Some countries have more single moms, while others have women who are waiting longer to get married. When it comes to Latvia, it's a special case. This cozy country by the Baltic Sea is not just known for its beautiful forests and beaches, but also for its remarkable number of single women. In Latvia, there are more women than men, which means lots of ladies there are living their lives, building careers, and sometimes raising families on their own. They're part of what makes Latvia unique and interesting, showing us how diverse and cool the world can be. Alongside the prevailing presence of single women, we've put together a list of the many things that make Latvia an interesting country. Please give this video a thumbs up as we begin. Latvia is nestled snugly in northeastern Europe, bordered by Estonia to the north, Russia to the east, Lithuania to the south, and the vast Baltic Sea to the west. It's like the country is giving a group hug to its neighbors. Now, when it comes to the people who call Latvia home, we've got a mix that's as diverse as a box of assorted chocolates. The majority are Latvians, making up about 62.4% of the population as of 2023, with Russians as the largest minority at 23.7%. But what's really interesting is the gender dynamics. There are more women than men here, thanks to a high early male mortality rate. This means there's a noticeable number of single women in Latvia. Now let's talk about what these women, and indeed all Latvians, look like. 2/3 of them have light hair and eyes that could be gray, bluish, or greenish. The rest might have a darker complexion with brownish hair and eyes. Hardly anyone has black hair. It's like walking through a live painting, isn't it? But life isn't just about looks. It's about living, too. And living in Latvia is kind of a mixed bag. If you're thinking of visiting or moving, you'd probably want to know how much things cost, right? Let's say you're hungry for a meal. It'll set you back about $15 per person. And if you're a fan of milk, a gallon costs around €430. Not too shabby, especially when you compare it to other European countries. But remember, while Latvia might be a bit cheaper than its Western counterparts, it's still pricier than places in Latin America. For those planning to stay a bit longer, getting by in Latvia means knowing your monthly expenses. A family of 4 might need about €3,063 a month, while flying solo could cost you around €1,354. And hey, if you're looking to impress a Latvian lady, being honest and romantic goes a long way. They appreciate gestures that show effort and loyalty. But don't forget, Latvia still holds on to some traditional gender stereotypes, with many believing women should take on more domestic roles and men being the main breadwinners. But here's where it gets interesting. Living in Latvia won't break the bank. A cozy apartment for one costs around $500 a month, and keeping the lights on and staying warm would cost you another $185 for utilities. And before you ask, yes, internet and gym memberships are included in the monthly expenses. You can expect to pay around €15 to €25 for decent internet speed, perfect for streaming, gaming, or working. As for keeping fit, gym memberships vary, but they're generally affordable and won't break the bank. When it comes to work, the average salary in Latvia is around $1,700 per year, but tech gurus in Riga can earn up to $55,570. Not too shabby, right? And with the minimum wage at $700 per month as of 2024, Latvia is doing its best to keep up with the times. Now for the wanderlust hearts out there wondering about visiting Latvia, here's the scoop. Flying from major cities like New York to Riga, Latvia's vibrant capital, could cost you around $1,349 for a round trip. But if you're a bargain hunter, October is your best bet for snagging cheap flights. Prices can dip as low as $381 for a one-way ticket if you play your cards right. Latvia is a country filled with dense forests, wide rivers, and the sound of the sea crashing against the shore. This is Latvia, a place with a story that feels like it's straight out of a fairy tale, but trust me, it's all real. So, back in the day, before your smartphones and internet, Latvia was home to the Balts. These folks were the ancestors of modern Latvians, and they had their first big encounter with outsiders in the 9th century. The big burly Vikings, also known as Varangians, came in and said, hey, we're in charge now. But this was just a warm-up for what was to come. Fast forward to the 12th and 13th centuries, and here come the Germans. Not just any Germans, but German crusaders on a mission to spread Christianity. They looked at the Baltic region and thought this looks like a good place for some crusading. And so they did. They established control over the area, which included present-day Latvia, and called it Livonia. This was the beginning of a whole new era. The German knights brought with them stone buildings, castles, and churches, some of which you can still see in Latvia today. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The local Balts weren't too thrilled about these new landlords and their rules. There were fights, rebellions, and all sorts of medieval drama. Yet despite the conflicts, this period was crucial for shaping Latvia. It was during these centuries that Riga, the capital of Latvia, was founded. Imagine walking through the streets of Old Town Riga, with its cobblestone paths and towering church spires. That's medieval history right there under your feet. Now let's not forget the neighbors. To the east, there were the Russians, always keeping an eye on the Baltic region. And then there were the Lithuanians, who were kind of like the cool kids of the Baltic neighborhood. By the 16th century, they teamed up with the Poles and said, "Enough is enough," and took over the German states in Latvia. That right there was a major plot twist. Throughout all this, Latvia was like a crossroads, a place where East met West, where crusaders bumped into traders, and where different cultures and religions mixed. It was a melting pot of ideas, languages, and people, all happening in the Middle Ages. But then, the Middle Ages passed away, and Latvia became a different nation soon after, but not until a number of chaotic events happened. In 1917, the world was a pretty chaotic place. There was this big event called the Russian Revolution that shook things up in Russia. Amidst all this chaos, Latvia saw an opportunity and declared itself independent on November 18, 1918. But, as you can guess, declaring independence and actually being independent are two different things. It took a bit of fighting and some diplomatic moves before Soviet Russia and Germany gave Latvia a nod of recognition in 1920. Before all this independence jazz, Latvia had its fair share of drama. In 1905, there was a lot of tension, and Latvian nationalists were not having it with the Baltic German landowners. Things got pretty heated, and sadly, violence erupted. Fast forward to 1934, and Latvia was hit by the Great Depression like much of the world. This led to a coup d'etat by Prime Minister Carlos Ulmanis. Just when things seemed to be stabilizing, bam! Latvia found itself under Soviet rule in 1940, for then Nazi occupation, and back under Soviet control after World War II. It wasn't until the failed Soviet coup in 1991 that Latvia finally got to wave its independence flag high and proud again. After being independent, Latvia decided to step into the big league and join the European Union. In 2003, the government of Latvia decided whether to join this exclusive club of European countries. The people voted, and it was a resounding yes, with 66.97% in favor. So, on May 1, 2004, Latvia became a member of the EU. This was a big deal because it meant Latvia could trade more easily with other countries in the EU, travel around without a bunch of visa hassles, and get some financial perks too. But why stop at the EU? Latvia also decided to switch up its currency game and adopted the euro on January 1, 2014. This move was all about making things smoother for business and travel, not to mention boosting the economy. Speaking of economy, Latvia's economy is like a well-oiled machine, humming smoothly with a mix of old-school charm and new-age tech. It's a small country, but it packs a punch economically. Thanks to its knack for exporting stuff like sawnwood, which rakes in a cool $1.25 billion, and wheat that brings home the bread, quite literally, with $1.22 billion. And guess what? They're also big on sending out petroleum gas and electricity, so it's safe to say Latvia is pretty resourceful. But here's where it gets super interesting, the service sector. Think of this as the heart of Latvia's economy, pumping life and cash through its veins. Services, including transportation, IT, and financial services, are the big bosses here. Latvia is like that friend who's always online, leading the charge in information technology not just in Europe, but across the globe. They've got a digital pulse that's hard to beat, with a booming ICT sector that's all about innovation and keeping people connected. Now, every story has its dragons, and Latvia's economic story is no different. Despite its strengths, Latvia faces some tough challenges, like a dragon hoarding gold. Income inequality and poverty are the big baddies here, making it hard for some folks to catch a break. And while they're doing their best to slay these dragons, with efforts to boost employment and protect those in need, it's an ongoing battle. Speaking of geography, Latvia is pretty flat. But don't let that fool you into thinking it's boring. It's like the canvas of nature has been painted with the most beautiful landscapes. About 75% of Latvia is covered in these undulating plains, which are basically gentle waves of land that go up and down as far as the eye can see. These plains are not just for show, they're where most of the farming happens. Then there's the other 25% of the country, which is all about those moderate-sized hills, giving you that perfect Instagram-worthy backdrop. Now let's talk about forests. Imagine walking through a forest where the trees seem to touch the sky, and with every step you might stumble upon wild berries or mushrooms. That's a regular day out in Latvia because forests cover a whopping 42% of the country. And guess what? These forests are not just for the eyes. They're a big deal for Latvia's economy too, thanks to the wood processing industry. So next time you pick up something wooden, there's a chance it started its journey in a Latvian forest. But hey, what's a beautiful country without some stunning rivers and lakes? Latvia has got them in spades. The Daugava River is like the main artery of the country, flowing right through and bringing life wherever it goes. It's not just about the water, it's about history, hydroelectric power, and even protests to protect the natural beauty from being drowned by dams. Speaking of beauty, let's not forget the coastline. Latvia sits right on the Baltic Sea, boasting about 300 kilometers of untouched seashore. This isn't your typical beach scene with crowded resorts. It's more about serene forests meeting sandy shores, where the only footprints might be yours or a bird's. Now, on to the climate. If you're a fan of experiencing all four seasons, Latvia won't disappoint. From warm summers that breathe life into the forests and beaches, to cold winters that turn the country into a snowy wonderland, there's always something new to see and feel. And with an average temperature that swings from cozy sweater weather in July to "Where's my hot cocoa?" in January, there's never a dull moment. Let's not forget the rivers that add to Latvia's charm. Besides the mighty Daugava, there's the Gauja, known for its clean waters and breathtaking national park. It's like nature's playground, with everything from trout and salmon swimming around to tourists hiking and soaking in the beauty. Now let's talk about why Latvia seems like the land of single women. In Latvia, there are more women than men. For every 100 women, there are about 8% fewer men. This imbalance isn't just a number game. It plays a significant role in the dating scene. Many women find it challenging to find a partner simply because there aren't enough men to go around. But what about these Latvian women? Well, they're known for being incredibly stylish and well-educated. Picture walking through Riga, the capital, and seeing groups of fashionable women chatting away in cafes. They're not just about looks, though. These women are smart, holding high educational degrees and often speaking multiple languages. Now on to the men they like. While some might have a soft spot for Americans, thanks to Hollywood movies and pop culture, others might find themselves drawn to men from countries with similar cultural backgrounds, like their neighbors in Estonia or Lithuania. But despite the preferences, the shortage of men makes the dating game a bit tricky. Latvia is also known for its high levels of female employment and participation in the labor market. These women are not just sitting around waiting for a Prince Charming. They're out there making waves in various professions, contributing significantly to the country's economy. So, why is Latvia deemed the country of single women? It's a mix of demographics, history, and cultural dynamics. The high mortality rate among men, coupled with the women's high educational attainment and participation in the workforce, creates a unique social landscape. In this video, we've discovered much more than just the statistics of single women. We've seen a country rich in culture, tradition, and a strong sense of community where single women contribute significantly to the fabric of society. Latvia, with its beautiful landscapes, vibrant music scene, and historical treasures, offers a unique perspective on the evolving roles of women in today's world. So, as we conclude, let's remember Latvia not just as a country of single women, but as a place where every individual, regardless of their marital status, plays a vital role in making the world a better place. If you enjoyed this video, let us know in the comment section down below, and turn on your notifications to know when next we upload. See you in our next video. Bye.